Okay, let's dive into connections on our deck. We have all the components designed. So let's talk about how it connects to the house. What type of bolts do we use? What type of connections from the post to the beam, the joists, so on and so forth. So we make sure we kind of pull it all together, and when you're going to the store to get all of your materials, you make sure you get all the other little brackets and parts and tools and things that you need to build your deck out. So let's first look at the code and make sure that we are kind of on board with bearings and types of stuff like that. So we have our deck beam. We've already designed it. We know we're doing two 2x12s. And here it's telling us that the ends of the beam shall have not less than 1.5 inches of bearing on wood or metal and not less than 3 inches bearing on concrete or masonry, which we're going to be sitting on a 6x6 post. So we're good to go. We've got that covered. Deck joists, same thing. 1.5 inches over metal or wood. We're going to be sitting over two 2x12s, which are 3 inches thick. So we're good there. And where we attach to the house, we'll be sitting in a hanger, a metal hanger, which will provide us with at least 1.5 inches. So we'll be good there. Let's see here. Our ledger. So our joists hit the house. We're going to put a ledger board, or we're going to attach a board to the rim or the concrete of the house, depending on where it just depends on how it attaches. But usually people put decks right at floor level, and when you build a floor in a house, they put the joists in the house, and then they have what they call a rim board that kind of goes around the whole outside of the house and attaches the inside joists of the house to that rim. Well, you're going to attach your ledger board for your deck most likely into that rim board, or depending on where it sits, if it's low enough, it might actually attach to your concrete foundation. But it tells us that we have to use at least a 2x8. Deck ledgers shall be a minimum of 2x8 nominal pressure treated, and then it goes through all the different grades. So no matter what, they want that ledger board to be pressure treated. So we talked a little bit about materials. For the deck design I did, I'd be using Doug fir because that's where I live. But if I was within 18 inches of the ground, I would want to use pressure treated everywhere. But for following code requirements, we're 6 feet high. I'm going to end up using pressure treated posts and a pressure treated ledger. After that, I'm going to move to just regular Doug fir for my joists and for my beam. Now, if you live in an area where you get a lot of water and you want to make sure that those that everything can last longer, then put pressure treated everywhere. Regardless of how high you are off the ground, if you get a lot of moisture, it's going to rot out eventually. So if you have room in your budget, don't hesitate to put pressure treated everywhere. Just make sure at least your posts and that ledger hooked to the house are pressure treated at a minimum if you're above 18 inches above the ground. And we'll look at some details as far as attaching that ledger to the house. And then we have a lateral connection, which I'll also show you detail for. The lateral connection it's a specific type of metal connection that actually connects the joists inside the house to the joists of the deck. Now, they're doing this more for lateral purposes, and they're asking for at least 2 per deck within 24 inches of each end of the deck. You can read through this code, and I will attach it below, and it also dives into some more specifics on where their lateral load connections are provided in accordance with this figure. Hold down tension device shall be installed at not less than 4 locations. For the purpose of what we're talking about, I think you're going to be okay if you have 2 and you're within 24 inches of the ends. And I'm also going to show you, they've taken it out of the code, which would just be angle bracing off of your decks. But if you get up, 4 foot or higher on your deck, I highly recommend putting in angle bracing, because what it does is it just takes that like teetering of the deck and it solidifies it. That's kind of what these lateral connections are, which I would put those in as well, but I would also put up some angle bracing, and I'll show you a quick picture of what I'm talking about there as well. So let's dive into our deck. So the deck that we designed has a cantilever on it. It's attached to the house. It's attached to a primary structure. We have 6x6 posts that we're going to notch and put two 2x12s right here. And then we have 2x8s that are going to carry over. And I think it was going to cantilever about 2 feet. Usually it's like a 1 to 1/4 ratio, meaning like if this thing spans 8 feet, well then 1/4 of that is 2 feet, so you can use a 2-foot cantilever. Here would be the rim outside of your deck that you would end up putting up, which is just pretty standard. And then you'd have some type of connection right here, right? A lot of times people will use like hurricane clips. They might use blocking and then toenail it. So you can, where each joist sits, let's see if we got a better picture here. So if you look right up here, so you have your beam. You have a dropped beam or a flush beam. Our beam is going to be dropped down and cut into the post, and then the joists are going to go right over the top. So in between, you'll have, say, 2 nails that are toenailed down into the beam to hold it, and then you have the rim out front to keep it from laterally turning one way or another, because boards eventually are going to want to turn, right? So you put that rim board out there, it keeps them straight and flush. I actually put blocking right between here above the beam as well, because that is another point where you just kind of keeps everything straight up. You don't want anything turning on you, warping or moving. And so here would be the different types of connections that you might have. So you could have a beam where you run it right over the top, and you're going to want to use what they call a post to beam connection. So it's a metal connection that attaches the beam to the post. Can't just set the wood on there and then just toenail a bunch of nails into it. They actually want a metal connection right there. And you're going to want to use proper fasteners. Now, fasteners, I mean by nails or screws or whatever. Don't just use wood screws or deck screws. Those connections need to be done with an approved fastener, which would be some type of structural screw or a nail. Usually they use what they call Tico nails, and a lot of guys, that's what they use, is a Tico nail. It's an approved metal connection nail. It's just a little itty bitty nail, and it just pounds into all the holes. So we'd be using something like this. So here they've actually used through bolts to connect the beam to the post. So here you're on top, you've used this post to beam connection. Here you've notched it and you've done through bolts. You might also be able to get away with like a leg bolt type situation instead of a through bolt. Here's a splice. So maybe your beam is spliced right on top of that. So like for our example, if you guys can still understand my drawing here, is let's just say that you didn't want to buy 16-foot 2x12s. Okay, well, maybe you bought 8-footers and you're going to splice it right over the top of this post right here, which is fine. Then you would end up with a splice situation like this right over the top of your post. I always try to get the longest pieces I can, the least amount of splices. You definitely don't want to splice mid-span. Don't splice mid-span. Only splice your boards over bearing. Because you have 2 of them, you don't want to have one like splicing in the middle of one run and one in the other run. Meaning you don't want to buy a 10-footer and a 6-footer and then have the splice somewhere in, let's see. So if you went 10 feet, you'd be like somewhere right over here. Well, you don't want to splice right there. It has to splice over bearing. Okay? So keep that in mind when you're trying to figure out what materials you're ordering in sizes, because getting 8-footers might be straighter than like a 16-footer. 16-footer, the board might be kind of wonky on you. So maybe 4 8-footers and they just splice over that middle one. Good to go. Okay. And then we're going to use, say, through bolts at that particular location, which is why you want that 6x6. You want something that's nice and beefy, because remember, you need 1.5 inches minimum over wood. Well, if you're splicing now, well, each of those needs 1.5 inches. With a 6x6, I mean, even a 4x4, you would be right there. But a 6x6, you get that extra bearing and you get extra room for your through bolts. So you're not blowing the wood all up. So we've talked about how we're setting our post on our beam. Okay. Now we've talked about footings, but depending on how we ran our post, we want a post to concrete connection, and I'll show you some pictures of all this. Usually it's a metal bracket, like a horseshoe type looking bracket that you would set either into the concrete when you pour it, or after the fact you would use like anchors, some type of wedge anchor to anchor it down and then set the post. That's what I usually recommend, because if you set something in wet concrete, it's set there. And so if your layout is just a little bit off, well, you're stuck with it. If you go in after the fact, you pour all your footings, you snap your line, then you can go in and you can anchor down your bracket where you need it, and it's in the right spot. Now we can talk about the ledger connection. So we've got our joist sitting over our beam. We're toenailing those in. We're going to block it probably over the top of the beam. We're going to have our rim out in front, and then we've got our post to concrete connection. Now we've got to have our joist or our ledger to the house connection. So here we've already figured out we need a treated 2x8 minimum, which matches our 2x8 joists. And that 2x8 has to attach to the house somehow, right? And so our joist span, we're going to come up to this chart, our joist span, we're spanning, how far do we say we're spanning? We're spanning 11'1" to the beam, not 13 because we're cantilevering. So we're going to go with the 11'1", which would be right here. So it's between 10 and 12. And we're not going to use bolts, because then you got to be on the inside and you got to have washers and you have to bolt it in. We're going to use leg screws, which nowadays, this is just a brand name, but like Ledger Lock, or I think Simpson Structural, they have actually like a leg screw that you can use with a drill. And they're way quicker and faster to put in, and they have the equivalent strength as a 1/2-inch leg bolt. Make sure you check exactly what's on the box. Make sure you know you're getting the right thing and the right lengths. If you have an 1.5-inch ledger and say an 1.5-inch or 2-inch rim board, you want to get all the way through all that. So you probably want a 3.5-inch leg of some sort if you're using legs. So we have a 1/2-inch diameter leg screw with 1/2-inch maximum sheathing. So you have that plywood sheathing that goes over the top, and then your siding, right? So you're pulling your siding, you get into that sheathing, and you're going to set that ledger board. And you're going to set it, and you're going to add leg screws at 15 inches on center. Okay, well, how do we set those if we're 15 inches on center? We're going to set them in a staggered formation. We're going to make sure we're at least 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom and 2 inches down from the top. 2 inches from each side, and we're just going to stagger them as we go. Depending on how you put it in, because we're going to end up putting hangers on there, right? We're going to find 2x8 rated joist hangers, and those are going to get nailed in. Sometimes guys will take this and they'll nail in their hangers on the ground, just because it's easier to put all those Tico nails in or those structural screws in, and then they go set the board, and they've already got everything to set all their hangers in to set their joists. When you do that though, sometimes it can mess up your layout just with where those hangers are. Just make sure you get pretty close to it. Within reason. You can obviously be closer than 15 inches, but just make sure you're covered, okay? All right, and then let's go back over to here. So we've talked about our ledger connection, and we're going to use joist hangers. So we talked about those tension rods, right? And when I went through at the very beginning, the code reference on the tension rods. So that's what this is right here. This is the detail for those tension connections that need 2 per deck, minimum within 24 inches of the edge. You can see it's like a through, like a rod, like an all-thread rod. And then you have a connection from the deck joist to the floor joist. So it just kind of pulls the whole thing together. And that is part of the lateral design. Like I said, if you're above like 4 feet, I'd be putting in angle bracing. And I'm going to dive into some pictures right now and make sure that you kind of have an idea what I'm talking about on some of this. But that's the bulk of connections, right? That should pull your whole deck together. You connect it to the house, You've got all of your metal connections, post to beam, post to concrete, hangers, your leg bolts attaching the ledger to the house. You got everything designed. You should be good to go to build this thing. So this right here would be an angle brace. Okay, so 6x6 post. This particular deck, it looks like the beam was ran right over the top. They used a post to beam connection right here. And then they have an angle brace. Not a huge one. I think it's like 2 feet, cut 45s. And they have like a leg bolt that takes it in there. Just keeps that sway down, right? And then if we went over to, here would be like your sonotube. Here is your connection from your post to concrete. So they put it in after the fact. They poured their concrete pier. They took their post to concrete bracket, their saddle bracket, and they set it in. They anchored it in, and then they nailed it off with Tico nails. You can see joist hangers. This particular one, they did not take the joist over the top of the beam. They used 2 2x12s based on the span, and they notched it in, and then they used hangers. So here you can see they used through bolts, and they've notched it in, and then they through bolted it to hold it together. And here would be the back side of the through bolts. Again, here is your pier, and then here are your joists that have hangers in them. So that should cover the deck design. That should take you through building an entire deck. If you were to go through the code book and you were to look at all the charts, you could design your own deck and you could put it together the way that you want, with the materials that you're able to source from wherever you live. And it should be nice and strong and built to hold whatever you got going on it. It should meet code. Again, check with your building department on snow loads and live loads and how they're calculating those items as far as footing designs. If you don't know what your soil type is, use 1,500 pounds. And then the next couple videos will dive into stairs, landings, guardrails, and handrails. So on our design, we decided to do a 6-foot deck. We designed it accordingly. It does not have to have stairs on it, but it does have to have guardrail. If you're over 30 inches above grade, you need to have guardrail to protect against falling. We're going to put some stairs on this and work our way through the stair design so that you have an idea how to do that as well. But this should get you through the bulk design and build of just the deck itself.